Hi, everybody. We are the Non-Prophets. This show was brought to you by the Atheist Community of Austin. I'm your host, Jeff D. My co-hosts are Mary McManamee, and sitting in for regular co-host Vic Farrow is our producer, Russell Glasser. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello. Today's opening music was Let the Eagles Soar by Attorney General John Ashcroft. And that bears some immediate discussion, don't you think?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I don't know if anybody out there has missed this little bit on CNN, but it's like available there. You can go to the CNN website and hear Ashcroft performing this rendition of his song, which he wrote himself. I have the entire URL if I type it in for the chat room.
Sure, I will.
All right.
Just give it to me.
Okay, that's at the bottom of the page there. It's pretty awful, but it seemed like something everybody needs to hear. We are live March 16, 2002. The Atheist Community of Austin is a non-profit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We have weekly meetings Sunday mornings at the Hot Jumbo Bagel Shop at 07 West 5th Street in Austin, Texas at 10:30 a.m., except for the first of each month when we have our lecture series at 11 a.m. in the Longhorn Room of the Cafeteria at North Cross Mall. Our next lecture will be on April 7th. ACA board meetings are at 10 o'clock right before our regular meeting on the second Sunday every month, except that the last board meeting was postponed and will actually be occurring tomorrow, March 17th. If you shop at the Randall's grocery store chain, give them our nonprofit organization number, 5158, and 1% of your purchase will be donated to the Atheist Community of Austin. The Godless Gamers meet every Monday night at 7 p.m. at my place, and ACA Happy Hour is at Antonio's near Highway 5 and 183, again in Austin, Texas, Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Unfortunately, Antonio's has just changed its schedule and closes at 9, and that's just not sufficient. So there's been some talk of moving Happy Hour to Thursday at Antonio's. I don't think there's been a final decision yet, so if you're in the group and you want to know what's happening with Happy Hour, ask around. Let's see. For more information, you can call our voicemail at area code 512-371-2911 or visit our website at www.atheist-community.org. So how about that song, huh?
How about it? And what did you bring with you?
Well,
you created it.
I did a little rewrite of the lyrics to Attorney General John Ashcroft.
Oh, y'all are gonna
fabulous
love
song. And I'm being pressured now to do it immediately. I was going to hold off until.
I think you should wait until later.
Let's hold off.
Build up some excitement for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
For those of you just tuning in, because I know that a lot of the viewers come in a couple minutes late, or listeners, at the beginning of the show, played a song which was sung very heartfelt by John Ashcroft last.
Our intrepid Attorney General.
Let the eagles soar.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all about how, if you listen to the lyrics, it's all about how we're special because God loves us and God's our king and all this kind of crap. Things that the guy whose primary job is defense of the Constitution ought not be saying in his official capacity, or singing in his official capacity.
Right.
And it gets worse than that. The story that I've heard is that he has actually made copies of the lyrics of this and is spreading them around the office and encouraging his co-workers at the, State Department? Is that what that is? Justice Department? Justice Department. To sing along with him. And he's also brought in Hispanic employees of the government and had them translate his lyrics into Spanish so that even Spanish people can sing it.
Well, maybe you ought to send him your lovely alternate lyrics.
Yes, please do.
I will definitely be posting my lovely alternate lyrics to the Atheist Atheist News Group.
Okay.
And we've
Sure you don't
let's
want to
let
sing
our
it?
listeners my version of the song when I do it myself.
Okay.
We got some announcement things to get through here. Atheist Alliance Convention is March 29 to 31. That's just later month at the Harvey Hotel at the Dallas Fort Worth Airport. The full convention package, including all banquets and lectures, is $200. You can also pay for each event individually. To purchase tickets, send a check made out to Metroplex Atheists. Hey, Vic's in the room. Hey, Vic. Send a check made out to Metroplex Atheists, to Metroplex Atheists, care of Shelley Hatton, SHELLIHATTAN, P.O. Box 48116, Watauga, Texas, WATAUGA, and the zip is 76148. The deadline for the special hotel room rate is $69 per night for the Atheist Convention, and it has been extended until March 15, which is, I guess, next Friday or so?
I think so, yeah.
The reservation line for the hotel is 972-929-4500. Be sure and tell them you're coming to the Atheist Alliance Convention if you want that special rate. And for more complete information, you can go to www.metroplexatheists.org/convention2002.htm. Members of the ACA will gather at Bull Creek Park in Austin on April 20 to lend a helping hand keeping our city parks clean. Contact Michelle Kadouche if you want to join in. Volunteers are encouraged to wear their ACA t-shirts and show Austin that atheists care. The hours are 9 to 3, but you can come anytime of the day as long as you like. Instances of slurs, defamation, or discrimination against atheists or other non-believers in the U.S. media can be reported to the National Atheist Ombuds by emailing ombuds@atheism.org. This is sort of a anti-defamation league for atheists, and its time has come. Please remember to include as many details as possible and a news source where Apple. I just sent them something last week. It was an Associated Press opinion piece by a guy who was equating atheism with communism and Nazism and blamed the execution of Daniel Pearl.
Yeah.
Huh?
I said, oh, that's original.
Yeah. And he blamed the death of Daniel Pearl on atheism.
Yeah.
Because, of course, you know,
All
true
those guys
Muslims
over
wouldn't
there.
kill anybody.
Right.
Instances will be reported to participating national and local non-theist organizations who have agreed to distribute press release regarding the reported subject matter. Freethinkers and Atheists of Virginia is a new atheist group forming in Virginia. For more information, you can go to www.atheistdominion.org. They meet at the Virginia Beach Central Library at 4100 Virginia Beach Boulevard between Independence Boulevard and Rosemont Road. Their next meeting, and the only other one that I have information on, so I'm going to stop announcing this. I'm doing this as a service to the atheist community, and if I hear about other new groups starting up, I will announce them as well. But I can't do it forever. Their next meeting is tomorrow from 1 to 3 p.m. in the auditorium of the Virginia Beach Central Library. NonProphets Atheist Experience CDs. You can now collect past episodes of the NonProphets and an audio version of our sister show, The Atheist Experience, which airs on public access TV only in Austin, Texas, in convenient CD format. Each CD includes a full month's worth of audio from both shows in QuickTime and MP3 format. The January and February CDs are now available, and as a bonus, they include, the January one includes audio from our church-state separation rally, and the February one has the audio of our lecture series, last lecture before this, with John Rumbridge from UT, talking about the epic tragic poem Samson Agonistes.
That reminds me,
Great lecture.
I may have another, and this is still tentative, but I may have another guest lined up for the lecture on April 7th, I think it is, the first Sunday.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. The UT journalism professor, Dave Garlock, has a relative new book out about Pulitzer Prize-winning feature stories, and he may be able to speak us on that day.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Get in touch with Michelle about that. The CDs are $5 each. Contact atheist@mac.com for info. Eat More Christians t-shirts are also available. Proceeds go toward the cost of running this fine program. There are also mugs, mouse pads, and all that kind of good stuff. For Eat More Christians t-shirts and other products, go to www.cafepress.com/nogods. And now I'm going to turn it over to you guys for news. Mary, why don't you go first?
Sure. I've got a lead story today from China. Chinese President Jiang Zemin has ordered his nation's security service to shoot members of the banned Falun Gong spiritual group caught hanging banners and posting signs on behalf of the organization. As they say, it's happened already that 3 or 4 people were shot in the legs while hanging signs in Liaoning and Jilin provinces. They are being treated in the hospital. About 80 Falun Gong practitioners congregated in front of the Chinese consulate, some holding banners reading "Stop persecuting the Falun Gong" and "Falun Dafa," or "Falun is good," while the majority sat on the sidewalk meditating.
Good grief.
Yeah.
And didn't we learn anything from Christianity? If a press stupid believes them, it just makes them dig in their heels more deeply and makes them get the sympathy vote. Mm-hmm. That is not the way to deal with these stupid-ass religious organizations.
I know. And I know we did a story last week about Jiang Zemin, the Chinese president, and how I believe he is an atheist. And I certainly don't want anybody to get the wrong idea that atheists would advocate, shooting people for hanging up signs about religion.
Well, clearly some atheists do advocate that, but there is nothing about atheism that says, go shoot people that believe in supernatural stuff. Atheism is nothing but the lack of belief in any gods.
Right.
Period. Now, how to get along with other people after that is a separate issue, but clearly involves not shooting them.
Right.
By the way, I've got a letter to read a little later. A guy who said, one of these dopes who basically has the opinion that if you're atheist, then you have no choice but to go out and kill people.
Awful. Well, yeah, not all atheists are rational, unfortunately. So, moving along to Irish news, the Irish opposition the Irish opposition parties have clamored for the country's virtual ban on abortion after voters rejected a government to further restrict women's limited access to termination. This is a story from the BBC, and by a margin of just 10,005 votes, or less than 1% of the total, a proposal to stop the threat of suicide being used as a grounds for abortion was defeated in a referendum. So it sounds like what's happening in Ireland right now is that a woman's right to choose is being threatened. Abortion is already outlawed in Ireland, but there's been some movement by the Catholic Church to go ahead and try and outlaw abortion, even for women who have said, if I don't terminate this pregnancy, I'm going to commit suicide. And this has basically been a legal loophole in which women are gaining access to abortion. But the pro-choice groups say that government's willingness to allow women to travel abroad for terminations but not to allow the operation at home has been highly hypocritical. So basically the shot is, Ireland is obviously a Roman Catholic country, and it's also a Protestant country, depending on where you live. But the Catholic Church is once again trying to interfere and is interfering with a woman's right to choose. And, again, in Ireland, they don't really have a right to choice anyway, because, again, abortion is outlawed regardless. But now they're trying to take, and it was defeated, but they were trying to take away a woman's right to choose, even if she said, look, if I am forced to have this child, I'm going to commit suicide.
Right.
And the reason the case came up to begin with was a 14-year-old girl was raped, and she said, if I have to have this baby, I'm going to kill myself. And
I'm getting word that we're having some
technical difficulties.
The audio quality is not what it should be, and our technical staff is working on it. We'll get that problem fixed as best we can.
Okay. What's happening? Is it just fuzzy?
Oh, there's a buzz.
We're coming in faint, the microphone.
Huh.
We're working on it.
We're working on the plugs, and we've worked on the volume level stuff, and we'll even it out.
Okay. Well, in a somewhat related story from Germany, the last German diocese to hold out against a Vatican order to stop counseling women who want abortions has finally given in. Bishop Franz Kamphaus of Limburg has for the past 2 years continued to allow church centers to provide counseling to women wanting to terminate pregnancies, despite a papal order for the practice to cease. Abortion is technically illegal in Germany, but women are not punished provided they have received counseling at a state-approved center, which issues them with a certificate allowing them to obtain a termination. So basically this Bishop Kamphaus was the last bishop apparently that was offering this kind of counseling, and now under pressure from the Roman Catholic Church, particularly the Pope, he is no longer doing that. And there's a direct quote from him that says, I am still convinced that our way of counseling women would save the lives of many more children. So that's really unfortunate. Again, the Catholic Church because of their belief that all life is sacred and that women
sperm is sacred.
Free sperm is sacred. Yeah, that women should not be allowed to choose for themselves what they decide to do with their body. So anyway.
Well.
Yeah. And I don't know if anybody else wanted to comment on that, but
Well, I mean, there's this huge blind spot there. More fertilized eggs get aborted naturally than all of the intentional abortions ever. God aborts more fetuses than human beings. Now, of course, Christians, even if you rub their noses in this and get them to admit that that is a fact.
Say, well, that's God's prerogative.
Yeah, they'll say God has every right to do that.
As if God had control over women's periods,
Yeah.
Give me a break.
All right, let's move on.
Okay. This is now turning to from the U.S., particularly Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. This is a story from the Associated Press. A Roman Catholic bishop who admitted molesting a teenager 25 years ago submitted his resignation Friday, becoming the highest-ranking clergyman brought down in a wave of allegations touched by the sex scandal in Boston. And as you know, if you've been listening to the show, we've been following the story pretty closely. O'Connell, at 63, admitted to the allegations leveled by Christopher Dixon, his former student at St. Thomas Aquinas Seminary in Hannibal, Missouri. McConnell was the rector there at the time. Dixon, now 40, said the two touched inappropriately in bed after he sought out O'Connell for counseling. Dixon said the abuse began in 1977 when he was 15 and continued to 1980. O'Connell, a priest for 38 years, was Bishop of Knoxville, Tennessee. Bishop of Knoxville. Before coming to Palm Beach in 1999, he succeeded J. Keith Simons. And get this, J. Keith Simons was the first bishop to resign because of sexual involvement with boys.
Oh.
So here they replaced one pedophile with another.
Okay.
It is. Dixon in 1996.
Are you saying they knew at the time that the guy they were putting in?
No, they didn't know at the time that the guy they were putting in.
It's just an indication of how rampant the whole thing is.
Yeah. Yeah, more than 130 people have come forward in the Boston case to say that Reverend John Giogan abused them. And since the Boston case gained attention in January, dozens of priests out of more than 47,000 nationwide have been suspended or forced to resign. In 1996, the victim in this particular case, Christopher Dixon, was paid a settlement by the Jefferson City, Missouri Diocese of $125,000. But again, that will never replace or, really pay for what he's had to live with for the rest of his life, I'm sure, as a result of that abuse of trust. So.
Yeah.
I've got a somewhat related story, which maybe I should read now.
Yeah, go ahead.
In Pittsburgh, after reviewing the personnel files of all 464 diocesan Catholic Bishop Donald Worrell of Pittsburgh has removed from ministry, quote, several priests against whom accusations of child sexual abuse had been made, but though credible, investigation failed to substantiate. We want to assure everyone in this diocese that there's no priest in parish ministry against whom a credible allegation of sexual misconduct been made, said the Reverend Ronald Langwin, spokesman for the diocese. We raise the bar in the belief that we are held to a higher standard.
Whoa, this is a new belief, right? If that had been there the whole time, guys would have been out of the ages ago.
Apparently.
Right? They just raised the bar on themselves.
Yeah, well, Langwin would not name the priests or say exactly how many had been removed beyond several.
Uh-huh. And
he would not say whether all had worked in parishes. He would not say when they were removed other than recently, but cautioned that priests have also left the ministry in recent weeks for reasons having nothing to do with sexual abuse of children.
He not only won't tell you anything about it, he also makes this statement to blur the issue so that it is difficult to draw a connection between guys leaving and their prior activities.
Right. Of course, as NESB in the chat room is pointing out, according to Jack Chick, all Catholics will go to hell anyway, since they're not Christians.
What is his little comment there at the end of that story?
The dilemma here is assuring the safety and well-being of children while at the same time protecting someone's good name, he said.
Right, because it's important to protect the good names of pedophiles.
Right. We've reached the point where if we are going to err, we want it to be on the side of prudence in order to protect the safety and well-being of children.
Wait.
Before.
If they wanted to protect the safety, if they wanted to prudently protect the safety of children, they had this bar raised a long time ago.
That's right.
What they are prudently protecting is the identities of the offenders.
Mm-hmm.
They're not protecting children by doing this.
They're shuffling them off to a different diocese somewhere else.
No. These guys are gone. These guys are the church.
But that's
still,
what was
they're
happening
still
before.
running around loose.
Yeah, and
right?
they're not, and they're protecting them.
Well, yeah, what they're doing now is they're protecting the identities of these pedophiles. So even if they're not in the church, they go out and molest more children.
That's my point. Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
I do. I wanted to read this story about some Pennsylvania nuns who appealed reduction in Social Security benefits. They're going to get their full back pay. 21 elderly nuns at the School Sisters of St. Francis Order will be restored the Social Security benefits the government had denied them because they took a vow of poverty. Benefits... I know. Benefits for the... this is really infuriating to me because the Catholic Church is not taking care of these nuns. And here they are living in nursing homes. Their Social Security checks have been cut. But does the Catholic Church pay them anything? No. They want to get it from the government, and I think that is so erroneous. But anyway, let me read the facts.
But the church will pay them because they took a vow of poverty.
That's not what it says, but it does say that the benefits had been cut from $900 to $700 a month for these nuns.
And
they range. There are 21 nuns, and they range in age from 75 to 95. They all live in nursing homes near Pittsburgh. Their benefits don't cover their living expenses. Loans and donations make up the deficit. Someone is paying, for the difference. So, but it doesn't specify whether the church is paying the deficit or who's paying.
Wow.
But basically,
loans and donations does not sound like
it doesn't,
a church thing.
No, it doesn't. I don't know. But it's despicable to me that, these nuns are living in these nursing homes and they're being denied Social Security benefits. I mean, I think even if they had taken an oath of poverty, I don't think the government has the right to step in and say, well, I'm sorry, you're taking this oath of poverty, so we're not going to pay you. Yeah. And that's what they were fighting. And ridiculous. It is. It's crazy.
People who take oaths of poverty get decide what they want to do to get rid of their money.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a blanket. You don't have to pay me money anymore.
Right.
I'm not going to keep it. I'm going to do something else with it.
Right.
All right.
So
that's horrible.
It is. It's awful. But it says here, an administrative law judge ruled in the nuns' favor in 2000, and again last May after the Social Security Administration's Appeals Council rejected the first decision. The case then returned to the Appeals Council. So basically, they will be getting those benefits restored.
Want to remind everyone that if you've enjoyed our show and would like to receive emails reminding you to tune in each week and chat with other listeners between shows, you can join the reminder list by going to groups.yahoo.com/group/atheist_non-prophets radio show. And we want to thank Wendy Britton for setting that up and moderating it.
And Wendy's coming into town.
Yay.
Yay! April 4th through 12th.
If she's listening now or going to be listening later. Hi, Wendy. I feel a song coming on.
Actually, wait, this just in from the chat room. For those of you who are avid Jack Chick followers, which I am, there are apparently 2 new comics on his website called The Scam and The Loser. As Martin put it, the first one is about Jack Chick and the second one is about his customers.
Now, I'm going to form a song here for you all.
Oh, you're going to love it.
And this is my rewrite of the lyrics to our intrepid Attorney General John Ashcroft's song "Let the Eagle Soar."
Okay, I'm prepared to fiddle with the sound.
I think that what we need to do is just run a few lines of Ashcroft.
It's a good idea.
We put that back up. I know it's going to be a little flip and twist.
I can just unpause the tape from where it was.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's good.
That's fine. Just keep the volume low.
Yeah,
so
if you missed the beginning, this is from Attorney General John Ashcroft once again.
This is written by him, performed by him at some seminary in February,
and rewritten just now by Jeff D.
Yeah, I have my version I'm going to do. Are we going to lose our microphones, or can we talk over?
Leave them on.
Go, Ash, go.
Mighty eagle soar. Though she's cried a bit for what we put her through. She soared above the lifted lamp, guard sweet freedom's door.
Let's fade him out now. So that is what our Attorney General had to say in song, and it struck me that he could have been a little more honest about what he had to say in song, and so I've rewritten the lyrics. This is what Ashcroft might have sung if he was a more truthful guy. All right, are we ready?
Ready.
And I have to do this without musical accompaniment. Let the Constitution snore like it's never snored before. From our own coast to foreign shore, let the Constitution snore. Let the Constitution snore. Its restrictions are a chore. We'll have theocracy galore. Let the Constitution snore. Let the Constitution snore. I am Fundy, hear me roar. Though my music skills are poor, let the Constitution snore. Let the Constitution snore. Prayer in schools will win this war. Trade science in for Christian lore. Let the Constitution snore. Let the Constitution snore. Bush is a genius, I am sure. He stole the White House from Al Gore. Let the Constitution snore. Let the Constitution snore. Religious freedom is no more. That's what I was appointed for. Let the Constitution snore. Let the Constitution snore. While I live in terror for calico cats which I abhor. Let the Constitution snore. Thanks, everyone.
You're getting a lot of response out there. Martin says, "Stop, you're killing me."
Thanks, everybody.
Literally.
Okay, so that's Ashcroft's song. As he might have sang it, when he said what was really on his mind. I know we got more news. Let's do more news.
Okay, why don't I go on to something very amusing that I found that happened on Wednesday.
Oh wait, I want to respond to some comments on the chat room there. Yeah, I did have to leave out some things. I only wrote these lyrics up this morning. I may be writing a few more verses when I have more time to work on it. I wasn't able to fit in anything about Bob Jones University or about draping the naked statues or his insults against the religion of Islam or any of that stuff. But, I don't know. Maybe we'll do another version of it later. Or there's been some talk of maybe recording that and putting on the next CD compilation.
Or maybe send it to John.
Or maybe send it to John.
It needs to be a single.
I want to stand outside his offices in a big calico cat outfit. All right.
Caterwall.
All right.
Well, let's see. We had some senators walking out on a pastor's political prayer on Wednesday.
No, they're state senators. These are not federal level senators.
Right. Okay. So about half a dozen state senators walked out of Tuesday morning's prayer after a pastor asked for God's help to make abortion illegal and make the Pledge of Allegiance in public school mandatory. These prayers are designed to be inspirational rather than political, said Senate President Stan Matsunaka, a Democrat from Loveland. He chose to do a political prayer. Let's see. The pastor David of Greeley's Assembly of God Glad Tidings Church touched on topics that many senators found offensive, Matsunak said. During Meek's five-minute prayer, he showed surprise that there were so many female senators. He called them precious ladies that the male senators should watch over.
Oh, my goodness!
At which point I asked, can senators elect to court-martial somebody? Because that would be great. And he urged the lawmakers to accept Jesus. And he prayed for God's help in overturning Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court ruling that legalized abortion, and to stop killing and murder. Senator Ken Gordon, Democrat from Denver, who is Jewish, said Meek's emphasis on Jesus excluded people who aren't Christian. Senator Mary Ellen Epps, Republican from Colorado Springs, said he walked out because his comments belittled women. Mm-hmm. And a whole bunch of other people walked out.
Right.
And the guy who invited him, who was a Republican, of course, apologized later.
Wow. I grabbed some of this news back so I could do a few, if you don't mind.
Okay. Go ahead.
Because there's some stuff in here that I especially wanted to talk about. We have another Ten Commandments plaque removal. This one from the Chester County Courthouse in Westchester, Pennsylvania. And apparently this is an 82-year-old Ten Commandments plaque. I do not think that can have been part of the FOE project where they put Ten Commandments things everywhere. Because 82 years, that's older than the Ten Commandments movie. As we revealed in an exclusive on our show last week, a lot of these plaques that are on courthouse lawns, Ten Commandments plaques, courthouse lawns around the United States, were put there as part of a public relations gimmick by Cecil B. DeMille in support of his upcoming movie, The Ten Commandments.
FOE stands frick off everyone.
But this 82-year-old Ten Commandments plaque was removed. A federal judge called it an unconstitutional display of the biblical text. The plaque was inscribed with a version of the Ten Commandments from the King James Version of the Bible. The tablet's necessary effect on those who see it is to endorse or advance the unique importance of this predominantly religious text for mainline Protestantism, U.S. District Judge Stuart Dalzell wrote in a decision released Wednesday. The judge ordered the county officials to remove the plaque and permanently enjoined them from putting it back up, which I thought a nice touch. The ruling was a victory for the Free Thought Society of Greater Pennsylvania and its member, Sally Flynn, a longtime county resident who has served as a juror in the courthouse and objected to 50-inch by 39-inch bronze plaque. Obviously, we're enormously pleased a gift that was given just 200 years ago, that each person is free to find their own religious path or turn from religion, is being reaffirmed today, said Stephen Presser, lead director of the Pennsylvania chapter of the ACLU, which represented the plaintiffs. So that's awesome. More news from across the waves. Panel makes suggestions in Norway. In Oslo on Thursday, a religious panel recommended that Norway end its 465-year-old state church system and give all religions equal footing.
Whoopee!
Yeah. After 4 years of study, a panel from the Government Norwegian Church Council said that the time had come to separate the church and the state. And that just makes it extra sad that people are trying to paste them back together in America.
It really does.
And we used to be the forerunners, We used to be on the leading edge of freedom and equality, and now we are the backpedalers, while the rest of the world is slowly catching up to where we were 200 frickin' years ago.
Right, and that's the thing. I mean, now that we've been without a church state for so long, I mean, people don't realize what a horrendous life that would be to live, under church rule all the time. I think, the reason the country was founded, without, or to have church-state separation, it's a concept that is completely alien to people, so they think, oh, well, that must not be such a bad thing.
Right,
we
and
can
then people call our TV show and they say things like, God, you must be crazy to think that religious people are more of a threat than atheists.
Right.
By the way, Russell, have we rewound the Ashcroft tape?
We have now.
Excellent.
Yes.
Because we're going to play the entirety of Ashcroft's version of his own frickin' song at the end of the show today, so stick around. Measure would let states decide on Ten Commandments displays. This is from Wednesday. House conservatives will soon revive a bill that would give states the authority to decide whether displays of the Ten Commandments should be allowed on state-owned property. Last week, the Supreme Court chose not to review a lower court ruling that a Ten Commandments display outside the state capital in Indiana was unconstitutional, the second time in a year that the High Court has refused to intervene in what has become a legal dispute in numerous states. The American Civil Liberties Union and others have challenged commandments across the country as a government endorsement of religion. The commandments delivered by Moses in the Bible, according to the Bible, though many biblical scholars doubt that there even was an historical Moses, much less that he wrote those books of the Bible, are incorporated into artwork and other designs at many courthouses and government buildings, including the Supreme Court. Representative Robert Aderholt, a Republican from Alabama, will propose a bill in the next few weeks that would give states the discretion over displays on state-owned or state-administered property. The House approved a similar provision in 1999 as part of a larger juvenile justice legislation, but it never became law. Now, it's clear what the purpose of this is. The federal it's becoming clear in federal precedent that these things are a violation of the Constitution and have to come down. The only purpose for this kind of legislation is to stem that growing tide of legal precedent against Ten Commandments monuments on state property, and force it to be addressed in every single separate case, state by state, city by city. Right? If it just goes on the way it is, I mean, their place is starting to take them down without very much challenge now, because they know they can't win. Mm-hmm. So that is just a way for them to drag out this unconstitutional display. Mm-hmm. And it is important for us to all know that, and to write to our representatives to let them know that we are against enacting this law to stand in the way of the enforcement of federal law. Congregation votes to violate land laws. Well, for a while I was doing every week late violations of the law by Christians. I have yet to see one as blatant as this. The congregation of Thomas Road Baptist Church has voted to break a pair of state laws limiting the church's ability to own land and incorporate.
Break the law.
They voted to break the law. They knew what the law was. They took a vote and said, let's break that law.
This is just a more explicit version of they always go around saying, well, if enough students want to pray in school, it doesn't matter what the Constitution says. Now they're saying, let's break the law.
Excellent parallel point.
This is, by the way, Jerry Falwell's personal church. Church members voted Sunday to take ownership of 146 acres of land in the city for a new sanctuary, thus violating a state law that limits to 15 acres the amount of land a church may own in a city or town. Lawyers for the Reverend Jerry Falwell have also filed a motion asking a federal judge to reinstate the city of Lynchburg and a circuit court judge as defendants in a suit challenging those laws. Church leaders plan to build a new sanctuary off Chandler's Mountain Road across US 460 from Liberty University. The church also voted to incorporate, a move that flies in the face of the Virginia Constitution's prohibition on incorporated churches.
Ooh. Now, what makes them think they can get away with this?
I don't know. Maybe well, I do know, right? They think that we have had such a surge of religiosity in this country that we've reached some kind of
critical mass.
A critical mass of bumper stickers talking about God, that now they can break the law with impunity because nobody would ever dare round them up and throw them in frickin' prison. Mm-hmm. We'll see if they're right. Okay. Do you got more, Russell?
That's all the news I have.
Oh, I got some more.
Okay.
Radical Hindus. This is a section of the news stories that I've labeled lunacy for this week. Radical Hindus lash out against India's Muslims. This was from a story from today. A lot about India. Now, we've all heard about the killings that have been going on over there, right? Muslims and Hindus killing each other back and forth.
But that's always happened, right?
Well, especially lately. Now, Hindu militants are smashing up Muslim mosques in India and setting up statues of their own gods in those mosques. Now, up until the last few years, am I right in thinking that it has been centuries since we had stupid-ass religious groups taking over each other's temple, tearing down their statues and putting up their own frickin' statues?
Presumably you mean before the Taliban started.
Yeah. That's why I said decades, right?
Well,
because the Taliban was only at it recently.
I'm trying to think of another example.
I cannot think of an example. Are we like sliding back? Not just 100 years, but like thousands of years to this kind of stupid competition between religions?
Not thousands. I mean, like the Crusades were less than 1,000 years ago, weren't they?
Don't know. No. Maybe. Yeah, it was a 12.
It was the Dark Ages, right?
Yeah, all right.
12, 13.
Oh, okay, fine. Centuries, though.
Yeah.
Multiple centuries, rather than just a little.
A few.
It's driving me freaking nuts.
Yeah, I want to make a point on that too in a minute, but go ahead.
Oh, by the way, I want to repeat for those people. Well, you make your point because I'm going to go into a new thing.
Oh, okay. Well, speaking of September 11th and the resurgence of God that you were talking about, I have this really great book that I'm still reading. I haven't finished it yet, but it was published in 1983, and it's called Cults in America, Programmed for Paradise. It's by Willa Apple, or I guess it's depending on how you pronounce it.
Appel,
yeah. APPL.
She doesn't talk about Amway, does she?
She might, actually.
Oh, really?
I haven't read that far yet, but she may indeed. But the thing that struck me, I'm on chapter 2, and in this chapter, she talks about the millenarian fantasy, or the fantasy of the apocalypse, and how we had been talking about that in terms of our end of the year or end of the millennium stories that we've been covering on this show, as well as on Atheist Experience, our sister TV show. Anyway, this particular passage really struck me because after September 11th in particular, I think a lot of people in this country have not only gotten the sense of resurgence of God and spirituality, to protect themselves from the idea that people would just do crazy things like fly planes into buildings and kill more than 3,000 people. But this particular passage I just wanted to share along those lines as to why there may be this resurgence of God at this time. Willa Apple writes, "The Mullerian fantasy appeals to people whose world has suddenly overturned, who find themselves in familiar surroundings that no longer make sense. Even the ground underfoot has become suspect, liable to slide or lurch without warning. Cult followers," and I use this term pretty loosely, but I would say to a certain extent that the followers of Osama bin Laden were like cult members. They were indoctrinated by a figurehead to go out and do these despicable acts. And we've never actually heard of a direct link yet between bin Laden and these terrorists, but basically that's kind of what we're fighting the war in Afghanistan about right now, is that presumably he is the one who is behind this. Anyway, cult followers are people whose expectations have been thwarted. They feel cheated and resentful, but either are too disoriented to cope with the situation or are excluded from the legitimate avenues of redress. The claustrophobia of impending doom, so visibly depicted in the messianic vision, describes this sense of ubiquitous threat and its passive quality, the loss of control. So I just wanted to kind of share that in context with what you were just talking about in terms of the resurgence of God in America. I think in a way, we can't really say that anybody who believes in God is part of some cult. I don't know that I would take that far.
I'm personally unclear on exactly what an appropriate definition is. I've heard the word cult used from, anything from, a religious group with which the speaker strongly disagrees to, I cannot think of who this quote is from, but there is a semi-famous person who said the difference between a cult and a religion is about 200 years.
That's interesting. She goes into quite a bit more detail, obviously, in this book, and I highly recommend it to anybody who's interested in this subject. But anyway, I think her definitions in there are quite good of describing cults. But she didn't really say, here's a definition of a cult.
No.
She talks about the sociological and the psychological factors that go into making these kinds of groups.
What really astonishes...
Just real quick, Vic in the chat room has been looking up the dates of the Crusades for us.
All right.
Great.
Apparently there was one in 1095, one in 1145, 1189, 1202, 1217.
Not quite 1,000 years yet.
Okay.
Thanks, Vic.
Thanks, Vic.
Yeah, thank you.
What really astonishes me, if that is the case, right, why is it that these millennial nitwits are also Republicans? You know, I mean, if it bothers them that they feel like they have no control of anything, why do they flock to a conservative religious agenda? You would think a liberal religious agenda, liberal political agenda, is what I should have said, would be more attractive to them. I don't understand.
Maybe it's because the Christian or the fundy perspective of religion that, the far right-wing Republican that, we're talking about, maybe it's because that religion claims to provide the answers. People want the answer. They don't want to have to really,
it certainly would liquefy the ground under their feet if they knew for an absolute fact that the worthless worms that meant nothing and all they could do to justify their existence is bow down to some giant space cake.
Right.
Speaking of which, we got a email, didn't we? Our group did.
Yes, as a matter of fact,
from somebody who thinks exactly that about human beings.
Well, I'm not sure about that. Let's see. If you go to our website, www.atheist-community.org, you'll see a few photographs that we've taken as an intro to some of the pages. And one of them has our daughter, Samantha, sitting with Michelle's kids, playing with them, and somebody didn't like that. He said, "Dear sir." They didn't like the kids, or what? They didn't like the fact that there are atheist kids.
Huh. Sorry.
Okay. Dear sir, my friend and I do not understand why you have a group of people that try so hard to get people to believe in nothing. I see on your homepage a family sitting at a table, a lady with 2 kids. I think Samantha is kind of mature looking in that picture.
All right.
She was 10 when it was taken. Anyway.
Is she a lady?
I think she is when I
Okay.
looked at the picture. Suppose one kid knows nothing of religion. He is just walking through the world doing his own thing, whatever he wants to do, killing, stealing, lying, whatever, it doesn't matter. You see, you cannot teach this child right from wrong because there is no basis for either. If life just happened to be millions of years ago, then there are no standards for... I hardly need to point out that there are numerous spelling mistakes in here. I assume you take it for granted. There are no standards for us to go by. We are all just animals and should act that way like dogs. Am I correct, or am I fooling myself? Another childish dream, as you say.
Yes. Yes, you are.
Now let's look at the other child. We are going to give him a reason in life. This child was placed on this earth for a reason, and the lady at the table is going to educate and mold this child. I guess Samantha will do that. Mold this child with the fundamentals of religion. He is going to be raised to love, help, and respect others. Because his values were set in stone, he had a mentor to set the standards for him. He had a line of goodness that stretches back thousands of years and that will be passed.
No. I know it doesn't stretch back thousands of years. We just established that it's less than 1,000 years ago that we had the Crusades.
Well, okay. And that will be passed from him to the next 1,000 years. You see, sir, without religion, we would eventually fall into a hole where there would be no reason to carry on.
Oh, boy.
You should be happy that there are enough people who chose to have religion in life, because without us, an atheist life would be a shortcoming. What? So enjoy yourself and thank the crazy folks when you pass them on the street. You are welcome to the email back, Mr. Atheist Man.
What? Is that what he said?
Good night and God bless Shane Smith.
So
thank you for that, Mr. Atheist Man.
Here's my reply.
Okay.
Oh, you wrote back. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dear Shane, You and your friend have made a couple of mistakes in what you were looking at. First of all, the picture you're looking at is not a lady with 2 kids. It is 3 kids playing with each other. The slightly older girl with the glasses is mine. The other boy and girl belong to a friend of ours. There is no need to speculate on what would happen if those kids were not religious, because the fact is that they are already atheists. And as you can see, they're all playing together quite peacefully and not killing each other. The second mistake you have made is what the purpose of the Atheist Community of Austin is. We have no desire to get you to believe in nothing. We don't care what you believe. We primarily are a social group of people dedicated to positive atheism and the separation of church and state. That's all. We don't want to convert you. We don't want to steal your soul. We just want to continue to be here and let people who are curious know what we are about and let other atheists know that they are not alone. The third mistake you made is in the way atheists view life. Atheists are not immoral. They don't kill, steal, lie, or rob any more than religious people, and they do, in fact, have a basis for acting the way they do. Perhaps you would benefit from viewing one of our frequently asked questions sections. Again, you are in error. This is after the part about religious people raising their kids to love, help, and respect others. Again, you are in error. Religion can have an influence on a person's values, but being religious is no guarantee that a person will act in a moral fashion. Nor is the complete lack of religion any indication of not having any values. There are plenty of examples of bad behavior by the church throughout history. Even the Bible itself is full of stories of the slaughter of thousands in the name of the Judeo-Christian God. If you're concerned that I or my kids or any friends of mine are going to come and hurt you, you may rest easy. I know about 100 atheists through the ACA, and on the whole, they are some of the most non-threatening, friendly, upstanding, and intelligent people that I've known in my life. Our kids already know how to love, help, and respect others because that's what they have been taught, and they have seen by example that it leads to a fulfilling life. I appreciate you writing because I always like a chance to clear up misunderstandings between atheists and Christians. My life is very full and happy with or without, quote, crazy folks such as yourself to interact with, and so I wish you well.
Yay.
Yeah, very good response.
Thanks.
I'm in the middle of a debate with a guy. I mentioned some of this last week. I've had another exchange with this fellow, Rhett, who's a fan of my artwork and game design, who took exception to my opinion of religion.
Oh.
And he goes, well, I can ask you just a simple series of questions and prove to you that there was a God. And he started in on his questions, and I immediately went off the script that he was expecting, because one of his when I didn't answer the way he expected, he said, "Well, congratulations, you're one of the few atheists who realizes that there is an objective reality that exists independent of ourselves, because atheism is all about the glorification of the individual." I said, "Who is telling you this stuff?"
Ow! Ow! Ow!
Quit it.
Take that.
But it was just amazing that that it's a straw man argument, right? Religious people have this made up idea of what atheism is and what it's all about that they tell each other so that they can tear it apart. Mm-hmm. We do not have to lie about what Christians believe in order to criticize it. We don't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I want to thank everybody who is in the chat room right now. I appreciate that. We all like to have a big crowd in there. And
we're still going on for another half hour,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, we're going to continue. We've been going on for an hour and a half lately, and that seems to be going well.
I like what Cody C points out in the chat room. Do you believe in Zeus? No, that's silly. Why is that any more ridiculous than God?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it seems more ridiculous. Because to a person raised in Christian culture, Christianity is what they're used to, right? That is the set of beliefs that doesn't get you laughed at. therefore that's not silly. That's really all there is to it. People raised in a Norse culture would think that the Norse gods made sense and that the Jesus story was silly.
Right.
Want to remind those of you watching the show, listening to the show, once again, that if you want to receive... Oh, there it is.
Email reminders?
If you want to receive email reminders, I cannot find my email reminder notes.
You already
You
say
just
this?
talked about it.
I did. It's gone. There's this reminder list.
That Wendy Britton started.
There it is. If you've
Okay.
enjoyed our show and would like to receive emails reminding you to tune in each week to listen live and to chat with other listeners between shows, you can join the reminder list by going to groups.yahoo.com/group/atheist_nonprofits radio show.
But non-profits is hyphenated, right?
Yes, non-profits radio show. Thank you, Mary.
Yep.
And they got Atheist Network has this really cool chat thing where you can get on the chat room live with other listeners during the show.
The chat has been very live today. Actually, we've got 9 people today.
Awesome.
Yay.
That's great. We've had more in the past. And
we've had up to 13 actually.
And that is a really good way to be able to be atheists and talk about what we were talking about, and often even interact with the show. So thanks to everybody who's there now, and if you're listening and not there or listening not to a live show but to a recorded past show, just want to remind you that chat room is a cool thing to do. All right, so we got this other half hour staring us in the face. What do we want to talk about?
Shall I tell you a little about my trip to Santa Fe?
Charles is waving something
Charles
at me.
has got something.
Before you do, what, Charles?
Oh, yeah.
Charles is visiting us in the studio here today. How you doing?
I had something to talk about that up on the list.
Yeah?
To kill some time if you want.
Sure, go ahead.
Please.
Well, first I wanted to... You're talking about the guy who said, that atheists just go around, or before you get religion, you just go around, killing and raping and whatever you want to do. Right. That was on the Simpsons, one Simpsons episode. They did a flashback to Moses bringing down the commandments, and the various Simpsons characters were the people below the mountain, and like it was Homer the thief and Ned the adulterer and stuff, and they just went around doing whatever they wanted, and Moses comes down with these commandments and he goes, "Thou shalt not steal," and Homer is dope, So it's like people couldn't figure this out before God sends down these commands to tell them what you can't do. It's ridiculous.
Right.
I have a comment about this line of reasoning.
Go make your comment, but let's stay on this subject before we go on.
Yeah, I am staying on this subject.
Okay.
But when preachers say something like, "Oh, well, if you were an atheist, you would go around lying and killing and stealing," you have to wonder who his audience is, because if he's trying to convert people that way, then he's counting on people saying, "Oh, people would lie and kill and steal? That's a bad thing." But if they react like that, then they must already know it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And in my discussion with this guy, Brett, I'm trying to explain to him what the actual basis for any system of behavior that human beings live under jointly, what the origin of that is. And I told a little story of, if there's a man stranded on a desert island all by himself, there is no such thing as a moral system. He can do whatever he wants, and nothing he does harms or helps anybody except him.
Well, we can still commit the sin of Onan.
Wait, what was that?
Let's set religion aside.
Okay.
But as soon as there's two people and they want to get along in order to support each other so that they each have a better chance of surviving, then they have to have some ground rules. If one guy eats all the food, then the other guy starves to death, and the first guy is left without the help of the second guy who was assisting in him getting that food in the first place. That is where moral systems, ethical systems come from. That's why we have those kind of rules. And so I explained to Brett that, when people do crimes, we don't get because we don't want to live in a situation where those crimes are happening all around us or could happen to us. So we support the idea of having law enforcement in prisons, and we catch people that do bad things and we throw them in prison. And Brett goes, so if that hockey dad that beat another man to death over his son's hockey game, you would just say that we should throw him into prison because he killed someone, because we don't want him to be running around loose and we don't want it to happen to us. I think that's appalling.
What?
He hasn't responded yet, but I asked, what do you mean? Do you want it to happen to you? Isn't it enough that he has done this to justify that we should throw him in the clink? Is it okay what he did? I mean, he says it appalls him. He hasn't explained what's wrong with it.
I remember reading that story, and at the time I thought, well, that is really tragic that they would put him in prison because, he does have a family of his own, and so did the guy who was murdered. But,
he had a family of his own and a history of abuse in that family.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Came out during the trial.
Yeah.
So, but, whatever the example was, that seems pretty clear that the principle works. I don't understand where his objection is coming from. Is it shocking him that human beings could take it upon themselves to decide things like that at all? Is it like this fear? Are we so afraid of becoming Nazis that we can't have any rules about what's acceptable and what isn't because of some kind of fear of a slippery slope down to totalitarianism? I don't know.
Was the guy who was incarcerated, was he and the guy who committed crime, the guy who murdered the other guy who beat him to death, the guy who beat the other guy to death and was incarcerated for that?
Yeah.
Was he a Christian?
I have no idea.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe
this guy brought up the story.
The odds are pretty.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Maybe this thinks because he was a Christian, he should be let off the hook.
Right. I don't know.
Yeah,
Well, not necessarily. I mean, I think the point would be more that if he was a Christian, being a Christian did not prevent him from doing that.
Yeah, I don't think Brett was bringing Christianity into that story. There was something about it, something about the idea of having a society and a government and elected representatives and having paid police force and having laws and enforcing those laws. Something about that rubbed him the wrong way. I have no clue what it was.
Is he in a militia?
I don't know. And he's never responded to me point by point. I respond his things point by point, and then he ignores exactly what I wrote and the questions that I asked, and writes a whole new diatribe.
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting. So you got a story you want to tell?
Well, a couple stories actually. I was not present last week, and my lovely wife Ginny did a great job of running the show in my absence.
Did you get a chance to listen to that show? We had
Actually,
a good last week.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll try to listen to it when I get a chance. Anyway, I was in Santa Fe last week, where my family was for a couple of reasons. First of all, my grandmother just died. And I know this kind of thing is actually of interest to you, Jeff, because I remember having a discussion about your mother, who's a theist, and one of the biggest things that scares her about atheism is not really having any way of coping with death. And my sister is has just gotten her master's degree in social work, and she's going into gerontology, which is old people, basically.
Right.
And she's got to deal with this too, because a lot of her textbooks say that when you deal with grief, you with the Lord to it in some way.
Right. And your whole family are atheists.
Right. My entire family are atheists. In fact, I'm a 4th generation atheist, and Ginny's about to bear a 5th generation atheist. And so there's nothing. There's no way we can comfort ourselves by saying that she's in heaven now, because even if we did believe the crap, she was an atheist, so she's in hell.
Right.
So, my father put together a very nice little casual memorial service for her. He he told us all about her life. Some things I really didn't know. Like apparently she was quite a famous musician in her day. She was concertmaster for the world premiere of Aaron Copland's Appalachian Spring.
Wow.
Did I say concert master? I made the mistake of saying concert mistress a couple of times. Learned there is no female version.
Okay.
But anyway, so he played
Precious ladies. No.
He played Appalachian Spring, and
Sorry. Okay.
he played Appalachian Spring, and we all talked about everything that we remember about her and her husband, who died a few years ago. And basically, we reminded each other of all the good things that came about as a result of her being alive. And there was a lot of crying. And then when Appalachian Spring over, he played a requiem, and that was basically her send off. So, dealing with death is a complicated issue, but one of the things that Karen told me as a social worker is that just facing the fact that you feel sad about something goes a long way towards making you feel better about it later.
Yeah.
The other thing that I did while I was there.
Do you want to talk about the death issue?
Yeah.
Because I think we sort of talked about this a little bit last week. How did it? Oh, the question of right to die came up in our show last week.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
My way of dealing with the fact that it kind of annoys me that I don't get to live as long as I will want to. The way I deal with it is I support research into medical efforts to extend human lifespan. That seems like an obvious thing to do, and I'm already experiencing the benefits of our technological progress. The average life expectancy in Jesus' day was about 25 years.
Wow.
Assuming that there was a Jesus, right? So when people talk about him being 33 when he died, that was not like a young man in the prime of his life. He was an ancient geezer. Like wizened old man. If I passed that quite some time ago, so I'm already better off than people before me, and the people in the future are going to be better off than me, unless there's some really exciting breakthrough in the next few decades that makes all of our lifespans essentially indefinite.
That would be nice.
That seems like a thing to do, right? Do the best you can with what you got. Try to optimize what you have available.
Yeah, or like they say in the chat room, just refuse to die.
Yeah, I don't plan on, right? I plan on making it so I'm around as possible. Mary, you thought about these kinds of things?
Yeah, I have a lot. Yeah. And
are you cool with the fact that you're going to be dead at some point?
Yeah.
You are?
I would not, because I know we've talked some in the group about being able to have some chip implanted in our brain, or, be like, as you've talked about before, be frozen and thawed out later, if that were possible to do.
Yeah.
I just don't think I'd want that because, I think part of what life is all about is that we die eventually. The moment we're born, we're really getting ready to die eventually.
I'm going to really disagree with you on that.
I know.
Because from what perspective is the fact that you're going to die part of what life's about?
Well,
from what perspective?
From a biological perspective. We're programmed to die. Our bodies are programmed to get old and die.
I wouldn't say that we're programmed that way. I would call it a bug rather than a feature.
Well, that's true.
No, it is true. It is true that evolution worked by clearing out previous generations of individuals.
All right.
Because it muddies the whole natural selection thing if you have too many different generations living together at the same time, right?
But
bacteria seem to get away with that fine,
and viruses,
right? Which are pretty much immortal, right? They don't have natural built-in aging mechanisms.
Well, wait, that's not exactly true. An individual bacteria cell dies, all the time. It.
Yeah, but if
you're looking at me funny.
If nothing kills it, how long does it keep going?
How
can it keep? As it was my understanding,
does it have a lifespan?
That many of those very simple life forms simply do not have a built-in obsolescence. They do not have a switch that makes them die after they've encapsulated a certain number of times.
All right.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
But if we're gonna just go with evolutionary determinism, right? Then there's all kinds of things we're already doing that are wrong,
Right.
like having bicycles. We are built to be able to go at a certain speed, right?
Yeah.
That is it. And we're already dodging all of these biological constraints by building technology.
Yeah, airplanes.
And I just don't agree that that's wrong.
Well, here's my point about it. And the point is, we're making all these wonderful advances, and I have no problem with that. But in terms of having everybody who's alive, let's say on the planet right now, to live forever, the planet can't support it. We cannot support an immortal planet because our resources are such where they're finite. We don't have much water. We don't have that much air. We don't have, well, we have
Are
that
you
much
saying
air,
you have
but-
too many people already?
Yeah. I think, again, I'm not in favor of saying, oh, well, people can't have any more children or anything like that, but I am saying that we're not dealing with these big major issues, such as overpopulation, and such as the environment, such as the fact that a lot of little communities across this country have water supplies that are completely contaminated and are no longer usable as potable water.
If we
But
could
you know
live
what?
forever, we would pretty much have to stop having children completely.
Or go into space.
Well, yeah.
Well, see, we're not
But
there
still,
yet.
No, but the thing is, it seems to me, those problems that you raise are all entirely valid and are going to have to be dealt with one way or the other.
Well, what
Right.
does that mean?
I mean, we have to deal with those problems. I don't see that that extending human lifespan is something that we need to consciously avoid for the sake of those problems, because we're gonna have to solve them.
Well,
if we can't solve them, we're in big doo-doo anyway.
We are. That's very true. And here's the...
But if we only have the necessity of solving those problems, then fine. We have the necessity of solving problems. I don't see that extending human lifespan has anything to do with that question.
It has everything to do with it. Because, again, if we're talking about a finite amount of resources, water, let's say,
right,
fresh water,
right,
potable water, that alone makes the question of who lives and who dies a question of something other than our own external ability to, let's say, someday make it to where human beings can live forever. Not everybody is going to be able to live forever, and that's my point.
And how is that your point?
Because
does that mean we shouldn't do it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I mean, if there were some way for us to all live forever and never die and be able to live... Well, let me finish.
Yeah.
If there's some way that we could do it and have everybody literally live forever and, us never mess up the planet and have all of our natural resources just the way they are now, I mean, that'd be one thing. But it's not realistic to assume that we can do that. Because, again, we've never traveled out in space and been able to live in space. We've never been able to make an organic being live forever. So, even if we could, I just question the rationale behind it. Because, again, not everybody will be able to take advantage of that.
That's absolutely true, right? I mean, we have already had people die.
Right.
There are people who have already missed out on this technology, even if it comes later.
Right.
And that is a tragedy, right? I am not saying... Well, look. Suppose at some point in the future we find a way to make this available to everyone, right? Who's alive then? Well, we still can't go back and rescue the people that already died.
But what about the people who haven't been born yet?
What about?
Do you just say, well, we're not going to have any more people?
Let's take one issue at a time.
Okay.
There is no such thing as a technology that benefits everybody immediately. You were just talking about clean water.
Right.
If your argument is, if we can't extend the benefits of the new technology to everyone, then we shouldn't have it, then that would seem to say that we shouldn't have clean water for the people where we can have clean water.
No, I don't mean that.
I certainly agree. We need when we come up with a technology that benefits people, that we shouldn't hoard it, we shouldn't keep it away from people initially, but there are practical limits on how quickly the benefit of a new technology will spread to people, right? And I don't think that because there are those limits, we should then not have the technology. I don't see how that would have made sense as an argument against clean water, and I don't see how it makes sense as an argument against life extension.
Well, to me it makes sense because, again, we're talking about the planet the way it is now and the way it's shaping up, with the impact that our lives are having on it right now. Yeah. And again, part of that impact may be the ability to create the technology to where we can live forever. And again, though, for people, and I'm not talking about people who've already died or people who've already born, but let's just take the roughly 6 billion people on the planet right now.
Yeah.
If we could make it today, zap, everybody that's alive right now live forever, as you are right now.
Yeah. You still wouldn't be for it.
I still wouldn't for it.
Okay,
I don't see the benefit.
Let's talk about that. I mean, it is unlikely that that's going to be something we could practically have,
right,
even if we want it, right? So,
well, first you tell me what you think is the advantage of that, and I'll tell you what I think of being able to live forever. I mean, if
not being dead is the advantage.
Yeah,
here's how I look at it, right? I was alive yesterday, had a great time, right? I'm not foreseeing a time when I'm going to say, okay, that's it. I've had all the experiences that I want.
And of course,
I don't see where that could possibly happen.
There's a distinction you got to be aware of. It's like in Gulliver's Travels, he eventually got to a country where there are people who live forever, but they get really, really old and incapable of doing anything.
And that is where the idea of people being tired of life and being willing to die comes from. It comes from the fact that what happens in our current situation is that people get old to the point where bodies are falling apart, where they can't concentrate, they cannot enjoy their existence.
So if there is life
people,
extension,
it makes sense for them to say, I can't handle this anymore, that's enough.
What if they didn't have that choice anymore? What if part of the deal is, well, if you choose to live forever, that's what it means?
I'm not worried that we're going to find ways to violate the fundamental laws of physics, right? There is any kind of machine you want to talk about, any kind of biological system you want to talk about, it is possible to stop it. Right. I don't see that extension is going to result in a situation where people can no longer die even if they want to. There's going to be a way. Huh?
What?
Only vampires can do that.
Jenny is saying only vampires.
Or what was that bad movie in the 80s with what's her name?
About living forever?
It had Bruce Willis and
TV show?
Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn and
Death
Meryl
Becomes
Streep.
Her.
That's the one. Thanks. And they live forever, and it's horrible.
Steve Grand is typed. Sounds the old movie Zardoz. Yes, in Zardoz, that's an early treatment of this concept. Have you guys seen this film? In the film, Sean Connery is a savage from the wilds outside these enclaves where the immortal people live. The immortal people, their technology keeps them young. Yeah, it's a cool film, but I completely disagree with it philosophically. Their immortal people live in little enclaves where they just do meaningless things that don't really matter, and they come up with like stupid ways to spend their time, and they eventually get bored and sort of like stumble around like zombies because they have no motives, right? And then the punishment, if you do something wrong that the rest of the immortal gang doesn't like, is they pull back that technology from you, you get old, and then they have this building where they kill the old people. Yeah, the idea of it being a situation you're trapped into. I mean, the problem with the people of Zardoz is they just had no imagination. I can think of things to keep myself busy from day to day. I don't see what the problem is.
Let me tell you what I think I would do if I could not only live forever but also stay young.
Okay.
I mean, I would start by investing heavily, or so that I wouldn't have to worry about money after 100 years or so. Hopefully. And then I would probably switch careers every 10 to 20 years and become expert in every field I could come up with. I think that would be plenty to keep me occupied for several hundred years at least.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
What?
My view of what I would do with eternity is my view of the future is, and particularly of space travel, is not biological humans flying around in big cans of air. That to me seems like the stupidest way to travel through space you could possibly imagine. Akin to the old the Victorian era idea of flying to the moon in a hot air balloon.
Yeah,
it's just ridiculous. The thing that I envision for if you really do want to live a long time, is you need to get your consciousness uploaded out of your biological body, which is just inherently very flimsy, and put it in something that has a faster processor that can be armored against physical danger much better than a human being can. It does not have to breathe.
I like the way.
Doesn't have to bring water.
Have you read the Gateway series?
Gateway series, no.
No, that's great. The main character
does
fiction novels? Yeah, he over the course at some point in the books he dies and switches his brain over to a computer with the new technology that they've just discovered.
Right.
And he's like, boy, how did I ever live without this? He's like Frederick Pohl.
Oh, okay.
He's 1,000 times faster than any human, so he can still have conversations, but he can multitask because he can zoom in and out, check what their lips are doing right now, and then when they finish the sentence, he has to slowly feed out syllables a few at a time so that they can understand him. And meanwhile, he's, I guess, surfing the web or whatever, and I mean, rapidly gathering new information, and he can have hundreds of conversations at once if he wants to. And then, of course, there are other computer people in there with him who can keep up his pace.
Another really good book that explores these kinds of things is called Diaspora. Or is that Diaspora? I'm not sure how to pronounce the word.
Not sure either.
The author is Greg E. And in that book, it opens with this beautiful chapter about the conception and birth and maturation of a consciousness inside a computer system that is also inhabited by a whole bunch of other consciousnesses, some of which were uploaded from biological people and others that were conceived within the system like him. You believe, reading that chapter, that a computer program could be a baby, could be cute and playful and be really engaging the way that a real child is. It's just that he exists as a program inside this big computer system and is interacting with other programs with these constructs in the virtual reality rather than in a world full of molecules.
Well, yeah, the other day after the bagel shop, Paul and I were getting into this discussion, and he was saying that our bodies are so worthless because all they are really are just machines. And I
think he thinks they're worthless because they're
well, I mean, but worthless in the sense that they're going to die, they're going to rot, and there's nothing you can do to save a biological, organic body. That's why he was advocating your perspective, which is just if you could upload your consciousness into a machine, and that way that would be what would survive. But to me, part of being alive in the first place is your body. To me, having my life is just as much my body as it is my brain.
That's what we're used to. But why would that necessarily be so?
Because how can you say you would still be you if you were a computer program?
There are some really interesting philosophical discussions.
I think you should read The Mind's Eye. It's a collection of essays on the subject of what a self is by Doug Hofstadter and Daniel Dennett.
All right, now.
I'll lend it to you, actually, if you want. You can check it out.
I'd like that.
It's very interesting.
Ginny packed up all the books.
Oh, well, I'll write it
after
down.
your move.
Okay.
There are really interesting philosophical discussions that I have a friend who largely, Loubet, I've talked about his writings on the Atheist Community a lot.
Yeah.
And he and I see eye to eye on a lot of this stuff. But the one sticking point where where we part company is I would step into a Star Trek transporter machine, and he wouldn't.
Why?
Because what's happening, supposedly, now this is made up, fangled technology, but try to make it describe it in as possible type terms as we can. What's happening is they have a destructive scan process, right? Where your body is vaporized in order that it can be analyzed molecule by molecule.
Wow.
So they know exactly where everything is.
And how to put it back together.
Right. As soon as they model of you, then they have this magic that they do where they're able to make molecules come together in exactly that. Not the same molecules. Completely different molecules.
But they come together in exactly the same pattern. Your brain works
one
the way
hydrogen
it
molecule
before.
is pretty much the same as another, right?
Right.
But it does.
I don't know,
I mean,
I guess.
in all things other than, well, that's one over here and this is a different one over there. They are identical. They don't have. It's not like this one has extra bumps on it, right? Or weighs a little more. They're in all other regards completely identical.
We might need to take this up next
Are we running time?
Yeah.
We are
All right.
down to 3 minutes, and
Let's
we want
wrap
to
it
play
up.
the whole song.
Let's wrap it
Yeah,
up.
okay.
Yeah, we'll just pick it up from here. I think
Okay.
this is a really interesting discussion. So, folks, that's it. That's our show for today. Thank you very much for listening.
And plug your song again.
I know
we're going to hear Ashcroft's version now.
I did my version, and we'll try to put that on the CD, and maybe we'll post it on a web page or something. I know for sure I want to post the lyrics on the Atheism News Group.
Yay!
But we're going to leave you with Ashcroft's own version of what he had to sing. And
Let the Eagles soar.
let the eagles soar, and we will see you all next week.
Bye, everybody.